Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is John Giordano from the staff of the Center for Economic Growth. Thank you very much for attending our webinar series. If you are here and registered to see Catharine Potvin from Stragility, you are in the right place. So Stragility works with business leaders to assist them with clearly defining their vision for the company and develop the strategies and actionable plan to achieve that vision. Stragility also has a new relationship with CEG's Business Growth Solutions team. Business Growth Solutions is designed to consult and train the businesses that are already here in the capital region. We encourage you to ask questions. If you'll notice on your bottom toolbar, there is a Q&A button, and that's your method for typing in a question, and Andrea and I will be sure that Catharine sees it. So without further ado, I'm going to get out of the way and let Catharine take over. Thank you, Catharine.
Thanks so much, John. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. First and foremost, thank you to CEG for reaching out and offering this opportunity for us to speak with you all this morning. We appreciate it. So the agenda for this morning, I'm going to give you about a 2-minute overview of who we are and really why you should care and the impact that we have on businesses. And then we're going to jump right into the topic itself. And we're going to focus on 3 things. We're going to focus on evaluating the data, developing the opportunities, and focusing the execution. The reason why we thought this topic was important and so relevant at this time is because business owners and leaders are feeling very overwhelmed right now, and there's a lot of fear. And during this time, people can often not have the clarity they need to see opportunities. And so what we want to share with you today is a process and some tools and some great discussion questions to get your mind flowing so that you can go from a defensive mindset to an offensive mindset so that you can thrive in this environment and not just adapt. So our hope for you today is that when this webinar is over, there are takeaways that you can go immediately implement because we've worked with you to identify certain trends. We've worked with you so that you're inspired to see opportunities for your business. And most importantly, you can go ahead and act on them. You can execute and you can lead in this period of time. And so I'm going to talk about that until about 10:30-ish. And then I'm going to have Paul Hook from Tyny Company join me. One of the questions that we always get, and this isn't just during the pandemic, but marketing is always a huge question for us. We don't focus on marketing, but Paul is an expert in the industry. So I thought it would behoove our audience if he joined us this morning so he can talk about some marketing strategies, trends that he has seen, not only now, but how can you use them for the future. So this was the agenda that I just went over. And now just quickly, I want to talk to you about who Stragility is. And so we offer 3 services to help business owners really have that clarity to positively influence change in their business. And so we focus on market, strategy, and talent. And so with market, that's really focusing on the market research and analysis. So what's going on in your industry? What are the trends? What are we seeing now and for the future? This is really important because this informs strategy development. There are smaller businesses that choose not to start with market research. It is a bit of a short-sightedness to not do that because otherwise you're just shooting from the hip. Essentially comparing it to running a marathon with a blindfold on. So we help businesses by starting with that market research. And then we also look at their competitors, how are they positioning themselves in the market, and also voice of customer. So what is your customer saying about you? So strategy, it's very simply strategic planning and execution. And more importantly, we focus on that execution part because that is where most businesses fail. And our strategic planning process is actually much more simplified and focused than most. And then the third part of it is, which is extremely important, is your talent. So it's your people. So how do you develop a very high performing and healthy and cohesive workforce? How do you get those right people in those right seats? Not to overuse that term, but really, how can you have the best talent help you achieve your business goals? So those are the three services that we offer. And really our impact with you is these four things. So why would you want to work with us? These are the things that we help you achieve. And so I'm not going to read through them, but you know, these are the ways in which we look to help you be successful. So let's jump right into the three things that we're going to talk about today. And we're going to start with evaluate. I wanted to put this percentage up here, this data point that just came out from Goldman Sachs because I think it's very, very powerful. What this shows us is that, yes, businesses have an opportunity to innovate. They have an opportunity to make small tweaks. They have an opportunity to say, you know what, how can we better serve our customers? How can we better serve our team? And so I thought this was a great stat because it's showing that small businesses are taking this as an opportunity to do something different, to think differently. And I put the link down there because Goldman Sachs did a great job about putting an infographic together, which I love. It's very easy to digest, about some other data points that are happening with small businesses during this time. So I would encourage you to jump on and peruse that information. It's quick. It'll take you about 3 minutes. So evaluate. Evaluate is really the first step in the process. And really what I mean by that is when something like this comes on, you should be asking yourself, how can we do things better? How can we serve our customers better? It is actually a really exciting time to say, you know, what were we doing before that we can improve upon now? And so I'm sure everybody's heard of SWOT. And yes, very, very valuable tool. I'm using it a little bit differently. So yes, we're going to stick with strengths, but I would encourage people to really think about their core competitive advantages. This shouldn't just be some generic basic list that you come up with. And that's oftentimes what businesses do. Really think about the differentiators that you have that are strengths within your business. I would take it back and even start with your people. And really, what are the strengths of your team? Because without people, strategies are irrelevant because you need people to implement them. You know, are your core values a strength? Is your core purpose a strength? You know, have you really done a great job about communicating your value proposition? Is your service one that consumers can't live without? So thinking about those strengths, and then with the weaknesses, it really is a time, and I know it's difficult for people, but it's a time to look at things that weren't working. And to me, this is exciting because you can say to yourself, you know what, I know this hasn't been working and I can either change it or it really is a true weakness that we cannot change. And so, you know, I would encourage you to look at it also through a COVID lens. So really, what are weaknesses now more than ever because of this? And then which leads us to the trends. So this is really, really important for people to look at. You know, usually in a SWOT analysis, the T stands for threats. We want to look at trends. And what we're going to talk about today are some overarching trends that are affecting every industry, or most industries, I would say. When we work with a customer, we go specifically into their industry to talk about specific trends, also in conjunction with the overarching trends. So today, what I'm going to do is offer you some specific trends from certain industries. We may not touch on your industry, and I apologize for that. However, I am offering you the opportunity to just call me and say, hey, you know what, I work in this industry and I really can't identify what the trends are telling me. So really take a look at that. And this is a great way to start. So this is a great tool. It allows you to have some focus about how you can get over the hump and get this process started. And so I encourage you to use this tool. So here are some overarching trends that are affecting every single industry. You know, you've heard it a million times right now, work from home. Okay, but I want to offer you a different way to look at this trend. First of all, working from home is not new. We have data that shows working from home has tripled in the past decade. A quarter of the workforce in some way, shape, or form has been working from home. And what this has now, because of the fact that it was a demand that businesses have to work from home, those that can, it's allowed us an opportunity to see, this could be an alternate solution for us. And so there's a domino effect that we see that's going to happen. And we have done hundreds of hours of research in the past 6 weeks about what's happening. So obviously market research is one of our services, and really that's become our priority service right now. So this is a 20-minute presentation on hundreds of hours of research. So I'm trying to synthesize it for you in ways that can really get your brain working so that you can see opportunities. But a really interesting one about working from home is the fact that a lot of leaders are now looking at, you know what, this is actually working really well to have a remote workforce. And they're saying to themselves, do I need brick and mortar? And so you have it from a residential real estate perspective and a commercial real estate perspective. Commercial real estate is now adapting to design social distancing friendly office spaces. And it's not even just staying 6 feet apart, but it's also air filtration systems. You know, COVID stays in the air for a certain amount of time. It stays on surfaces for a certain amount of time. So really, is it worth going back to business, especially open floor plans right now? So people are thinking about working from home in that manner. And then on the residential real estate, if you are a broker, you're thinking to yourself, people are going to spend a lot more time at home. And what we're seeing also is a trend from the cities to come to this area. And so people don't want to be in the city anymore. And so residential real estate could really see an increase in their sales. Another opportunity for work from home is if I'm an interior designer or if I'm a home improvement store, people are going to be spending a lot more time at home. So therefore, those industries have an opportunity because of this work from home trend. Virtual interactions are at an all-time high. I love the example of a cosmetics store that is in China, and they had to close down 90% of their brick and mortar stores, and they took a huge hit in revenue. But what they did during the month of February in China is that they went virtual, and they took 100 influencers, and they did this whole campaign online, especially on Valentine's Day. And they took to becoming the experts in the cosmetic industry, and their sales in February were 120%. February, China, 120% increase. So they took advantage of the trend of the fact that they had to go virtual, and they killed it. So distance learning, again, it's a trend, but it's not new. Distance learning class in grad school in the late 90s. What is happening now is that education is seeing that distance learning can be an asset, and they can offer different experiences online to students of all ages. And with the rising cost of higher education, this is definitely a trend that higher education should really take a look at. And again, this could be a really exciting opportunity for colleges to almost do a hybrid model and decrease the cost of having access to higher end learning. Just lastly here, and I could touch on all of these, but due to our time constraints, on-demand delivery, we saw restaurants pivot and it was amazing. That's not going to go away because people are going to be wary for quite some time about interacting and going to restaurants. And so the reason why I want to put up these trends is to have you think to yourself, is there something here that I can take advantage of? Is there something here that can help me tweak the way that I do business so that I'm still relevant? So that leads us to the develop part, which is developing the opportunities. And, finding the opportunities for competitive advantage. The competitive advantage part is really the key phrase here. I've dealt with a lot of companies that I said at the beginning, they were having a hard time to see the opportunity because they were focused on the fact that these are uncertain times and they don't know what's coming. We actually do know a lot of information. It's actually taking the time to research it. So therefore, with the trends, something that I do want to mention is even though you may not be working with a company like ours, take the time to do your research. Information is out there. So with the opportunities, if you take one question away from this webinar, I encourage you to take this question. How can you meet the future needs of your team, customers, and community? And those are really the three segments that we're going to focus on in the next few minutes. And I put the word future in there because what you're doing today, if you have tweaked your business model, if you've made small changes that your consumers have benefited from, how can you carry that forward into the future? There is no going back. People are talking about post-COVID, the new normal. I refer to it as living with COVID. We have many experiences from the past that we can see how personally and professionally people thrived afterwards. It's everything from 9/11 to the Great Depression to 2008 recession. We have a lot that we have already learned from. So therefore, how can we take that? How can we analyze the trends and how can we find those unique opportunities to serve these three constituents? So I took a subset of questions that we work with companies on. These are great discussion starters to help you identify opportunities. So the first one is obviously developing opportunities with your team. So as I said with the evaluation part, this is a great time to look and ask yourself what's been working and what hasn't been working. What can we improve upon? And so one of the things that's come to light is obviously performance. And so when you transition to a work from home environment, your low performers, there's going to be a light shined on them even more. So you knew in your mind that you should have taken care of business prior to COVID because you had low performers. Now it's time to actually follow through with that. But what is also going to happen is people are going to rise to the occasion. So how can you identify those star performers? And really, a great question to ask yourself is if you're looking to offer new services or products, are there skill sets that your current team can offer that will help you implement those new products and services? Or are there gaps that you now need to fill? Because yes, unemployment is rising, but that also means that there's skill sets available to you. So hiring is still going strong, which leads me to a great example one of my clients that I've been working with for a couple of years, and it's a lot workforce solutions. And I want to give them credit right now because they have done such an amazing job about looking at their own team, their clients' teams, and what they can be a value-add resource for. And if you don't follow them on social media, I would encourage you to do so. But what they have done is they've partnered, which also is a great move, with a company to offer a complimentary employee experience survey. So what this means is that businesses can implement this survey in their company to see how employees are doing during this crisis. Are they getting the support that they need? What else do they need from their leaders? How can the employee experience be improved working remotely, or basically in general as well? And so employee engagement is something to definitely focus on, whether it's working remotely or you're in an office setting. It should always be a priority. You know, a data point that we do like to talk about is that most of your employees are not fully engaged, a very high percentage of them. So how can you increase that engagement? So there's an opportunity there. So again, these are questions to start the discussion with yourself. And again, I put in there about the brick and mortar, something to think about. You know, we're not going to touch on this during this presentation, but everybody should be looking at their P&L. What do their expenses look like? What does the new revenue look like coming in over the next few months or not look like? And do different financial modeling scenarios. And so this could actually lead to a transition of movement where we see less commercial space. But those are things that you need to decide for yourself. And, you know, a great thing to always focus on is culture. You know, if you didn't have a great culture beforehand and now you're looking to improve it remotely, yes, there are ways. But I talk to people about the fact that if you had that trust, if you had a high performing and healthy work culture, one of accomplishment and accountability, that's most likely not going to change working from home. Because if you trust people in person or remotely, you trust them. So things to think about. Very important, segment your customers. So one of the biggest things that we talk about with clients right now is pick up the phone and call your current customers and ask the question of how they're doing. You will gain such insight as to what their challenges are, what their pain points are, what they're doing well. And so therefore, you have valuable information about how you can help them. And if you can't help them, connect them with someone who does. So therefore, if you know their challenges, you can develop value add resources for them at this time. They will remember that, and they will stay with you, and they will tell others about you. But here are some questions, because when people are thinking about opportunities and they're saying to themselves, God, what services should we offer at this time? What products should we be offering at this time? You know, look to your clients to actually tell you that answer. Look to trends to tell you that answer. Look to consumer behaviors to tell you that answer. We actually do know a lot about that right now. And the last part is community. So I have to give a shout out to Monticello Real Estate. They have done a great job about how they're working with community. They just did a post in the past 24 hours about ways in which that you can support the local community. You know, Lamar Safranco Law, they bought thousands of dollars in gift cards from local restaurants and are giving them away on Facebook so that people will go into restaurants. Nonprofits and charities are suffering. How can you help them? They can no longer do in-person fundraising events. So can you be a thought leader for them in some way, shape, or form? But really think about, even though everybody is going through this together, there are some people that are suffering more than others, and how can we help them? The last part of develop is, I actually really love this slide because I think it's super simple. And we just got it from an article in the last couple of days. So it's just a really easy way to kind of get your mind thinking about how you can offer different products and services. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that in the essence of time, but take a snapshot of that and it can help lead your conversations. The last part is focus. And this is probably the most important part, because with the first two parts of elevate and evaluate and develop, those are great strategy discussions you can be having with your team. So that's almost the fun part. It's like looking at how can we do this? And so where everybody fails is the execution part. It's not cited here, but this is from Gallup, and we get a lot of information from Gallup. And this is why we focus on strategic planning. But for you during this time, because you do need to move quickly and be proactive rather than reactive, writing down everything that you just discussed under evaluate and develop, but really focusing on what you can control. So you're going to have to take all this information and you're going to have to funnel it down, because you need to implement and implement quickly. So here's a key. It's not new, but it's not that most people don't do it. So you have moved from a defensive to an offensive mindset. Now it's time to prioritize and execute. If you don't have a strategic plan, it's okay. Now is the time to formulate one. What I would encourage you to do is, part of a strategic plan is a long-term vision. Do what you can to best say to yourself, where are we going to be at the end of 2020? And who do we want to be a year from now? So try to jot that down if you don't already have it. If you already have it, revisit it and say to yourself, okay, you know what? For example, we are a distillery and we've transitioned to making hand sanitizers. And what we want to do is obviously not lose our major service and product there with the distillery, but we are going to extend to offer these hand sanitizers. So you can amend your long-term vision, but it is important not to lose sight of it. And your short-term priorities in 30, 60, 90 days, and yes, break it down into that manner, they should affect your long-term strategy still. So we're not looking for quick fixes here. We're not looking for short-sighted decisions. We're looking for the short and the long-term to play together. And, focus on one big thing at a time. What people have been doing is, if their one big thing was transitioning to an online platform so they could sell their products, that was their one big thing. And so focus on that, do it well, get it done. People have a hard time because they're like, we have to do all of these things. You don't. Get that one big thing. And the second bullet in HPA is high payoff activity. In sales, people are like, oh, we have to do all these activities. You don't. Write down 1 to 2 high payoff activities. One thing that sales guru Jack Daly said was, write down 25 or 50 people that can help you during this time. Is it current customers? Is it partners that you want to reach out to? Write them down and figure out a way to get in front of them. That's a high payoff activity. And if you don't, talking through all of this is a lot. So the last one is, you have to have a partner. You have to have a trusted advisor. This is just a template of how you can write down what your goals and objectives are. So if it's a major goal, the objectives are the ways that you're actually going to make it happen. And, I can send this to you. It's a very simple project management tool, but every project, every goal has a lead, has a deadline date, has a status, and then there are updates along the way. So it's really how you hold yourself accountable. And lastly, really the impact that you want to have on all of this is, be better than before. be ambitious. Yes, our tagline is elevate your game, but use this as an opportunity, even if it's a small thing. Do something better for your team, for your customers, for your community. Now is not a time to sit there stagnant. Now is a time to be excited about opportunities that lie before you. So we would love to help you. And what I will put out there is please reach out to me. Here's my contact information. You can talk to me or you can talk to one of the other lovely ladies that works with me. And we will answer any questions that you have. So if you have more questions about trends in your specific industry, if you're feeling overwhelmed and you can't see, you don't have the clarity to see the opportunities, we can help you work through it. We can get you over that hump because we want to see your small, medium-sized business thrive during this time period. And I love this quote because it's really one of the major reasons why I started Stragility. And it's really all about how you treat people. People will remember how you make them feel. And now is the time to make them feel like they matter. And I love the last part because memories are long and crises are short. So with that, what I would love to do is invite Paul Hook to join me. And again, the reason why I thought of Paul is because he is a marketing expert. He's been doing this for over 33 plus years. He runs Tyny Company. He has a great experience with creating brands and helping businesses sell their products and differentiate themselves. And so I thought he would be a fantastic fit. And he also has worked with CEG and their members for the last 20 years, and including helping develop and run the New York Loves Nanotech initiative that was a key part of bringing global foundries to the region. So Paul, thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, just found out now I'm unmuted, right? You can hear me?
I can hear you.
All right, we'll still all figuring this technology thing out. So I apologize in advance for any dog and child noises, but we'll do my best.
Please, are you kidding? You saw the way that I started. A lot of difficulty. So with our time left, it's 10:38. Let's have some good discussion about marketing. And really, the first question that I have for you is how should brands present themselves in this unique situation?
Well, yeah, we've seen quite a bit happen, obviously, over the last few months, and sensitivity and the human side of it, authenticity is probably the most important part of this. So slick, fast-paced, glamorous, salesy, that's just seems too callous, and that doesn't seem to be the right approach. Fortunately, I think we've all experienced that. It's kind of moved to the back. It's not going to find its way to the front anytime soon. So having that message of togetherness, you see some big brands doing it, but you referenced some examples of local organizations that are doing that too, and that's it's a great way to show that we are all in this together as we are. This is a very I'm not the first one to say this, a very unique time and situation. You referenced a couple of examples in our past that maybe we can reference for some point of context, 9/11, post 9/11, 2008. But this is different than that because so many industries are just closed and shut right out. So it isn't anything that we've been through before, but similar to post 9/11, I have feeling, and I've seen some of this type of feeling from gathering together and helping each other out. And, and that's not just the restaurants that are talking about takeout. It's other organizations that saying support the restaurant. So there's a lot of that community there, which is it's an important thing for us to be able to have, even though we are maybe stuck inside, we are still together as our communities. So authenticity, probably the biggest thing, message of togetherness. It, it can come across as in one point about business development, which does seem to be challenging and difficult to do during this time because it could seem insensitive or callous or kind of like not paying attention to what's really going on to try to sell your services. But in reality, our businesses are trying to, we're doing better by helping others do better at what they do. Like my business is to help others succeed. So I'm trying to help others do well with their business. So it isn't a wrong thing for me to try to get out there and help them. It's just, the approach, we just need to be sensitive with the approach. It can't be we can't just fall back on the way that maybe we were even doing it just a few months ago. We have to make sure that we're working together.
Absolutely. So you talk about authenticity, and another word is empathy. So being very empathetic towards people's situations, and especially when it comes to marketing of your business, and showing how you're helping others is, I would say, a key message. And then also, when we talk about sales, it's more how can you use marketing to educate versus promote, and show how you're being a value add and a resource to companies that need it. So talk to me about what marketing mishaps you've seen during this time that you would advise businesses to not do.
Yeah, I thought about this question. I don't know if we call them mishaps per se, but I would say there are a lot of the same messages that are starting to blend together, and it's a lot of it is because people are not sure what to say. But a lot of things you hear coming across almost seem more like public service announcements. And when it's how XYZ brand is handling this, and sometimes it's a safety related message, but I think we're now getting a little desensitized to that. It's almost like the terms of service that you read the first sentence and I'm like, okay, I agree, and then you just move on. So you kind of move past it because you've heard this same kind of message before. So that, and the other thing that's in the news are the companies that are doing different things, especially on the manufacturing side. Like, hey, now you mentioned hand sanitizer, one of those examples. So you hear a lot more of those things, but not everybody has that kind of story to tell. It's back to authenticity and what is your brand? What are you about? What do you do? Make that shine through with your messaging. If it's in social, if you're cutting back on advertising, you still get your name out there and show who you are. Because of all these very similar things that are happening, you're missing some opportunities to just be yourself, be quirky, be funny, be entertaining. We're not, people are longing for that kind of thing. Everything is doom and gloom. There's a lot of bad things in the news. It's either we're not coming out of this fast enough, or the economy is suffering, or more and more people are getting sick. So have something that can break that a little bit and give people something to shine, to look at, to enjoy, to entertain, even at just a brief moment of levity. There were a couple of on the bigger brand side, there were a couple of ones that stuck out of brands that are doing this well, that address this in a really good way. Back in March, and I just saw it again recently, just reminded me of it. But Guinness was one of the first to put something out on this, and they were addressing safety for large celebrations, which is the Irish heritage, and proud to be that, and proud to be a big Guinness fan and have some in my fridge. But it at the time, there were still people going to pubs, but they were talking about, our celebrations aren't going to happen. They were tipping their hat to their heritage and how long they've been around. And they even had a line that said, we'll still be around as they've signed a 9,000-year lease, so they're not going anywhere. But they talked about, although the parades would be canceled, I think the last line said something like, don't worry, we'll march again. So the whole brand came through, and it was a positive thing, and people saw very, camaraderie and so on. And so it was still branded, still got the message out there, but it was this kind of wearing this together thing. Don't worry, we're with you, and we'll be here when we all come through this. But a more current example is, and one of my colleagues shared with me, Oscar Mayer, their front yard cookout campaign. I just to learn about this recently. It's very cool. It's actually coming up this Saturday. So on May 2nd, they're suggesting people bring their backyard cookouts out in front, and social distance from each other in their neighborhoods, but have a cookout together in the community. It's also philanthropic on their part, so they're donating $1 million worth of meals to folks in need, but they're also asking people to use that hashtag front yard cookout, and every time anybody uses it, they'll donate another meal, so an additional 1 million meals. So this is a nice, their brand still comes through. They're still showing the food that they offer. Everybody knows Oscar Mayer, and they're showing hot dogs and so on the grill, but it's not the slick, fancy road, driving around in a Lexus. Well, no offense to Lexus, I shouldn't have called them out. Sorry, Lexus. But anybody, and the glamour side of it, but more the that's not what's front and foremost. They're doing something community-wise. It's a great idea, and also philanthropic side of it there. So there are ways for you to be able to present yourself in a supportive way that doesn't leave you out of it, but you're not just sales pushy in that regard. So.
No, that's fantastic. So what are 3 things companies can focus on right now with their marketing that are cost-effective strategies? Because, small businesses are a focus because we want them to survive this. And a lot of them don't have huge marketing budgets. So they want to do something, but really, what are the most effective things that they can be doing right now?
Well, I would suggest to go to where the eyes are. So, and that's what are people looking at right now? So you can probably figure it out. You talked about how many of us are working from home. So digital advertising, as far as sales, was down 33%. Traditional is down 39% based on expectations we were expecting to see in the last month or so. But online viewing is up 60%. So that's where all the eyes are. Everybody's home and they're stuck looking at their computer, whether they're, unfortunately, if they're unemployed or furloughed in between, or even if they are working from home, or if they're homeschooling, like I have math class in another hour, so I got to jump over and teach. But people are stuck online. So what does that tell you? There's 2 things there. So there's less advertising happening, but more people are watching. So there's definitely an opportunity there, and it doesn't mean that it's got to be big bucks. Less people watching, you don't necessarily have to spend as much, but get something out there in front. Get your brand out there on some sort of consistent basis. Even if you're, another part of this too, and this is the weirdness about this situation as compared to 2008, is that some industries, restaurants, for instance, are just closed. So it's, in 2008, we tightened our belts, things got pulled back. Maybe people didn't promote so much, but the fear now is some things that are closed because of, the virus and what's going on. Not everybody knows whether certain ones are even opening up. You want to keep your name out there so that people know that you're around. When this comes back out, you've been reminding people what you're about and that you're there. Another stat I was referencing, I was trying to remember the one with education. So Forbes had a story just recently about during recession, education, grad school, those always, those grow. People are trying to enhance their skills. They're trying to make themselves more marketable for the fewer jobs that are there. So Forbes had an article just last week. There's a 12,000% increase in searches on education. So you can see what people are looking at. So they're thinking of, how do I work in this in the future? You can understand that travel searches are way down, but you can take a look at the list and not be shocked, but just by the numbers, that's very dramatic increase. Another one that we've researched, or we've found out from our own research and working with some hospitals, is now they're in a weird catch-22 situation, because hospital revenue, a lot of it is from elective surgeries. People are stuck at home looking at their computers, researching elective surgeries. So hospitals aren't promoting that. They don't have the revenue that they used to have, but that's what everybody's looking for, because you don't cancel elective surgery, you postpone it. It's going to happen at some point. So people are looking into this in the next few months when they can get back into the hospital or outpatient situation to do that. And that's a great time to be able to have your message in front of them. A couple of other things back to the authenticity piece. Use your people. Your people are your brand, your company. That's the touch point with your clients. The restaurants example, the restaurants that are still out there have a presence, they're offering takeout. If there's the only thing they're talking about, they got an opportunity to do some other things. There's an old, I don't know if the 80-20 rule, or the way we used to do it back at Zone 5 was, every 8 posts, 1 was self-promotional. The other 7 were educational, entertaining, informative. So do a tour of your place, interview, talk about your staff, do something quirky or fun, or talk about some of the things you're doing, creative partnerships with other businesses, or effort, things that your staff are doing for the community. But back to what I was saying a few minutes ago, get your name out there, keep that out there, because when you come back around, I don't want to think that, I haven't heard about them in a while, I just assume they closed. No, if they didn't, they're back open, but you don't know that they were around, because there's not, if you want to look at it from a competitive landscape, there's not a lot of activity going on in certain industries that got pushed down. So if you're still one, even if it's a trickle, you're saying something, you're getting your name out there. And if there's ever any time to think outside the box, it's now. What are some creative, out of the box, different things to do to get to your customers? Some, you referenced back in your evaluate slide, different trends, the virtual interactions and on-demand delivery, some of these things that we wouldn't have we might have done a little bit of, but we didn't really do until in the video interaction. That like I've done more video conferences this week than I ever had in my life. So now we're semi-pros. You know, we're all really good at this. So, but this is not going away. It's going to be something that it'll be part of what we're doing. Are there creative ways are there ways that we can reach broader audiences because we can meet this way that we were afraid to suggest before because we were out of discomfort or technological challenges. We don't want to be embarrassed or embarrass the prospect or the client. So let's just meet in person and I'll drive an hour to go see you. Now we can just do it this way. So yeah, it's being creative and we're all I think we're all kind of stumbling through a lot of it together. So there's some comfort there. So it doesn't need to just be you going on a limb, trying something and maybe falling on your face and being embarrassed by that. So you don't want to try it. We're all trying some new things. So I think that's the next thing to look at. Just try to be creative as you can.
Yeah, I like that. And so, I'll talk about Monticello real estate. So obviously, they're selling residential homes right now. And, a lot of people aren't buying. There is still purchasing going on. But what they did on their social media was they actually started putting out posts about send your home. Here are some great examples of kitchens. And so houses that they have sold or currently in the process of selling, they featured kitchens. And then they went and they did a dining room one. And then so each week it was, hey, take a look at these gorgeous kitchens. I hope it inspires you. Mm-hmm. So it's a great way for them to put a different creative type of message out there while still having their name out, even though, things may have slowed down. And to your point about, restaurants or other businesses that may have closed, but they are looking to reopen, don't go silent. Like, keep the message out there. I've seen some restaurants where there's nothing on their website about anything. You can even tell if they're open or closed. And I'm like, such a mistake. And it's such an easy, low-cost thing to do. Yeah,
even if it's your own organic posting from social, it's basic. Is that there's one restaurant that I like. It took me 3 tries to try to. They're in a complex, so I tried a phone number, no answer. Tried the complex website, no sign of anything. I finally got to their own website, and I'll go, yeah, they are open. But if I had not tried, I would have given up on it. And that's the fear. We're all got a lot of stuff flying at us right now, a lot of information coming at us, and it's harder to get your attention. So yeah, you want to make sure that you're still getting your name out there.
Absolutely. And you can be creative by listening to what people need. And they're, whether they're a current customer or former, just talk to people and they'll tell you about what needs are, what they're looking for. And so that can help shape the messaging as well.
Mm-hmm.
Catherine, may I interject a question for Paul that came from a listener?
Sure.
This is for Paul. We spent so much time thinking outside the box. Do you think there's room back in the box?
That is a line, strangely enough, and if this did come from this particular person, I wouldn't be surprised. So that was when I was at Zone 5 back years ago. That was the line on the back of my card. We all had quotes, and I said, I think we've all spent enough time outside the box. Time to go back in. So if I'm not taking that as a humorous jab at me, we'll take that as a serious question. It doesn't mean. Well, you look at it this way. It doesn't mean we all have to jump on the latest thing and try to ride this and make this thing work for us. You want to still stay with your roots too. You want to just become something that is an opportunistic and then you lose your focus or what you really are. You still want to be able to be true to your brand and true to yourself. And some things that like one of them is a good example. Sycamore Creamery from where I'm out in Brunswick, from where I'm from. They're reinstituting a home delivery of milk. So that's an old timey thing. Like we haven't really seen that in a while. It makes total sense now. So that is a much older practice. And I had, some companies had been doing that, but it's going to be much more common now as delivery has become. So that's taking a newer tactic. I think on your evaluate slide, you had that, Catherine, and it's using an older service, I guess, or an older thing that most of this generation is not used to, and bringing that into play. So yeah, that's maybe some of the older, looking at it that way, some of the older ideas are worth investigating. Going back and see if there is a play for that. But yeah, it is. So Catherine, to your point at the end, what do people want? What's going to make them comfortable? What's going to save them time? That's one of the biggest things that we find when talking to clients. It's not because time is money. It's not always the money thing. If you can save somebody some time, or you save them the aggravation, or you say, and now there's a lot of fear, anxiety. So do I go somewhere? Do I go and even pick this food up? Do I go shopping? Or do I get delivery? And some things I can't get based on where I am. So what is the way that I have access to that? There are some older things that are worth looking at. It doesn't need to be all new technology.
Last question, Paul. Any insight about marketing trends for the future?
Well, I think we talked a little bit about this. So virtual is going to be here, going to stay here in some shape or fashion. I can't imagine that, this isn't going to be a fire hose or a light switch that's, when we say this is, because I don't think we're all going to be comfortable that this is behind us. So, but we will have learned some things. We've all become, as a kind of semi-pros or professionals at this video conferencing thing that we're doing. There's plenty of this going on. And we're more comfortable with it. I think it was on its way there anyways, but maybe within the next few years, and we crash coursed and learned it in the last month because out of necessity. But this will help reach this particular example will help us reach our customers quicker, greater geographic reach. We can reach further without have the travel time. And everybody wants to save time, to my point a few minutes ago, but people are still looking for the experience stuff. So what is the experience? How do you make them feel? You said I have it in your quote. It's an awesome quote. That's what they remember, and they want the experience, whether the experience is ease and comfort or whether it's something that they have memories from. But that's a very important thing. So it isn't just, it's not like the next whiz bang or the shiny thing or the next, cool technical thing. I think some of it is grounded in just the way we are as humans and people, and there is interaction and other people that kind of help us, whether they're on the other end of a digital line or whether they're in person. You want to get your message out there that's authentic. Back to your earlier points, I want to reinforce that. Gives people something else to take that's not telling them what they can't do. So that's a lot of what we're hearing now is doom and gloom, what you can't do. What can you do? How can you still connect? What can you still do to help somebody else? So that's a whole bunch of stuff that maybe didn't exactly answer the question, but just, I think a lot of this technology that we use, take advantage of what it's good for, but don't feel that any one thing is the exact solution. I think we're, separate from what it was like maybe 20, 30 years ago when we had just a few channels. We have so many ways in front of us now to communicate. Just be authentic and be approachable, be there for each other, and help everybody through this, and use this technology the best way that we can, but don't use it as a replacement for the human interaction, because we're all here to help each other.
Thank you so much, Paul. And John, I believe that we are just about time, correct?
Yes. This session was recorded, and so it will be posted on the CEG website for you to share with your business associates and staff. We owe a big thank you to Catherine and Paul for sharing their knowledge and being a part of our webinar series. We really, really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. And again, please feel free to reach out to myself. I have Paul's information as well. If you would like to reach out to him, we are happy to help in any way that we can to ensure that you are thriving during this time. So thank you everyone for your time.
Thank you.